Ever wonder why you can crush an entire bag of chips or you can't stop reaching for those lollies, even though you know you should stop or you're not even that hungry to begin with? We often think that that's down to just weak willpower or lack of self-control. But more often than not, it's not just that at all. Scientists have discovered a hidden brain chemical that makes junk food feel even more addictive. And once you understand it, you'll never look at processed food the same way again. So ultra-processed foods are designed to be hyper-palatable. Salty, sweet, fatty combinations that essentially light up the brain's reward system. When you eat them, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter triggered by alcohol or drugs, for example. But here's the twist with that. The high doesn't last. Your brain has a built-in braking system that kicks in to stop the flood of dopamine. Now, this next part that I'm going to share, I actually only recently understood the mechanisms behind this and the thing that I'm going to be sharing with you, or the chemical more to the point. I knew that many processed foods were engineered with the perfect ratio of sugar and fat and salt to trigger that massive brain response, and that's essentially what made it so hard to stop. But what I didn't know was that this crash and craving loop was directly linked to something that sounds like the name of a dinosaur called dinorphins. Now, these aren't the only chemicals involved, but they do play a big part in that response in the brain, or the chemical response that makes you crave more. And once I found that out, it completely changed how I actually looked at food addiction. So dinorphins are a family of natural opioid peptides, so chemicals your own brain actually makes. Now, they latch onto what are called kappa opioid receptors, which are scattered throughout key reward and feeding areas in the brain. Now, their job is essentially to slam the brakes on dopamine. So after that initial rush from consuming processed food, dinorphins step in and drag those dopamine levels down. And the result is a dip in things like mood and motivation and reward. Scientists often call it dysphoria, and it's that restless, unsatisfied feeling that I'm sure many of us are familiar with that makes you want to reach for yet another bite to then feel good again or feel that rush again. And that's the cycle, right? Eat these addictive foods, dopamine spike, dynorphin crash, and then the craving. And it's the same circuitry that we often see in substance addiction as well. So the very same loop that makes people relapse on things like drugs and alcohol. But here's where it gets even more interesting. So dinorphins aren't the only piece of the puzzle. New research in 2024 and 2025 actually show that there were other brain systems driving junk food cravings, and they're just as powerful as these dinorphins as well. So we've known for years that there is a chemical response in the brain when you eat some foods, but we didn't always understand the mechanisms. Now, one study in Nature Metabolism found that specific neurons in the hippocampus actually store memories of sugary and fatty foods. When researchers silenced those neurons in mice, the animals actually stopped overeating junk food and even resisted weight gain. So based on these findings, it actually suggests that cravings aren't just brain chemistry, but that they're literally hardwired into memory, which is wild. Now, another study from the Max Planck Institute discovered specialized neurons in the amygdala, our brain's emotional hub, that separately control hunger and thirst. Now, these neurons can override self-control, which explains why cravings often feel really emotional and unstoppable sometimes, even when you're not truly hungry. And it doesn't just stop there either. A 2024 meta-analysis of 160,000 adults showed people who ate the most junk food had a 15 to 16% higher risk of depression and stress. In fact, another 2025 study found depression severity predicts stronger carb cravings, especially for carb and fat combos like chocolate, for example. So this suggests that your mental health directly feeds into how powerful these cravings can be. And we know that, your diet affects your mental health too, because there's a bidirectional relationship between your brain and your gut's largely affected by the food that you eat. But it also looks like your mental health can determine your level of cravings too, or plays a role in it. So add it all together and you see the bigger picture, right? Dinorphins drive the crash, memory circuits potentially store food cues, emotional neurons push cravings, and mood can amplify it all. So ultra-processed foods are literally exploiting every single one of those systems all at once. So it's no wonder that we find it very hard to stop eating once we start. So on that note, is there a way to stop dinorphins and break that loop? In animal studies, researchers have actually blocked those kappa opioid receptors, and when they do, binge eating and compulsive behavior have dropped dramatically. But the catch with that is that those drugs aren't yet safe or available in humans yet. These are all in animal studies. Right now, the most practical strategy is just trying to keep those dopamine spikes stable so dinorphins don't have to slam down so hard. So I want to share a few practical tips to actually help avoid these spikes and crashes and some key takeaways as well. So number one, the most obvious one, stick to minimally processed foods if you can, or whole foods. Try to minimize the amount of ultra-processed foods because the minimally processed ones don't trigger the same spike and crash cycle as the ultra-processed ones do. Number two, balance meals with protein and fiber and healthy fats because this actually helps to stabilize the dopamine release. Number three, reduce exposure to hyperpalatable foods, so those ultra-processed ones. Environment actually really shapes cravings more than willpower. And honestly, just not having these around you, like in your home environment, in your bedroom, whatever, will make it a lot easier to not have them because we can't rely on things like self-control, which is ever fleeting. So creating the right environment, not having these things around will just make it that much easier for you. And you'll probably find too, if you don't have them for a little while, you'll crave them far less and it will get easier with time. And number four, the final point, pay attention, close attention to your stress levels, to your sleep and mood because they can make cravings worse. So make sure you're prioritizing sleep and not feeling too stressed or do something about it if you find that you are, to minimize that cycle. All right, so next time that you feel like you've failed or you're beating yourself up for eating too much, just remember that it's not your willpower, it's your brain chemistry and your memories and your emotions all being manipulated by these ultra-processed and hyperpalatable foods. So if you do struggle with that, easiest thing to do is just try to not get them or have them less often to avoid getting in those cycles, all right? So that is all for this video. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, but I hope you found it helpful or eye-opening. And if you did, please like this video and hit subscribe and turn the notification bell on because up next, I'm going to be showing you how to actually rewire cravings naturally too, and finally take back control of your food choices beyond what I have shared in this video. All right, I hope you found this video helpful and I will see you in the next one.